You have just arrived at a website dedicated to doubles rotation tournaments. This is an alternative form of a doubles tournament in tennis, in which you do not have a permanent partner during the tournament. You change your partner every game, and at the same time you also change positions on the court. In half of the cases you are on the left and in two half on the right. Next, instead of doubles rotation tournament, I will be using sometimes Doroto shortcut. Since you have visited this video, you probably already know something about Doroto, so I will jump directly to an illustrative example of how you can organize a tennis tournament from the very beginning. So the first few minutes of this video will serve as a quick overview of what Doroto is about and what it is for, and in the next few minutes we will get to the extended options and functions. In order to actively use Doroto, you must log in to your account. If you don't have an account, you need to register. The registration process may vary depending on the design of the website on which Doroto is running. In this case, you only need to provide your email, the desired password, and display name. All the activity you develop in Doroto will be displayed under this name. Now that I have completed the registration and logged into my account, I can go back to the Doroto page and register for my one tournament there. The available tournaments can be found at the bottom of the page under the Tournament Selection tab. There may be multiple tournaments available in the list here, so I can use a filter to show only those tournaments that are still open for player registration. To register for the tournament, I just need to click on the login link. After that, I will receive information that I have registered for the tournament. Since we registered for a tournament where we are not an administrator and where no other player is registered and therefore there is not much we can do here, we will create our own tournament for demonstration purposes. By creating our own tournament, we automatically become its administrator and have all the rights of the tournament organizer. We create a new tournament in the Tournament Selection table after pressing the Create a Tournament button. We will immediately see the details of our newly created tournament. Here we see the welcome text, the login link to the tournament, and also information about who is the administrator of the tournament. For privacy reasons, the player's name is shortened to the first four and the last four letters. Further in the settings, however, you can have the full name displayed. Now we can log into our established tournament. You can share the tournament registration link with other players. To illustrate, I copy this link to my clipboard and transfer it to another internet browser where I am logged in under a different user account. Once the tournament is established, I log in and go back to the original page where I refresh the page to see the next player logged into my tournament. In order to attract other players to our tournament, we will edit the invitation text. Editing of tournament parameters is done in the Tournament Editing tab. We will change the name of the tournament and edit the invitation text. We can copy it, for example, from a text editor into the appropriate field. If we want to highlight some part of the text in bold, we can use HTML characters for this. If we are also the administrators of the website or the website administrator has allowed it, we can publish a post dedicated exclusively to this tournament. As a rule, this post is visible on the main website, so with this step we will ensure sufficient publicity for our tournament. To create a special post dedicated only to our tournament, just check the A New Post checkbox and save the new tournament parameters. After saving, we can check whether the text corresponds to our ideas and whether the post has been created. Since we don't have enough time now to wait for the required number of players to register for the tournament separately, we will register the players for the tournament ourselves. We can only do this because we are site administrators or the site administrator has allowed us to do this. Under the Player Management tab, there is an add a new player field where we will see a list of all players who have ever registered on this website. Since we are still working with abbreviated names, we can get into trouble where we don't know who it is. Therefore, it may be a good idea to temporarily enable the display of full names. We will do this again in the Tournament Editing tab. When we save the new settings, we can return to the Player Management tab and add the required number of players to the tournament there. Of course, we can also cancel players from the tournament, especially when we know that they will not be able to participate in the tournament. Now we have 7 players registered in the tournament, 4 men and 3 women. Since we said at the very beginning that it will be a mixed tournament, it is necessary to set that Doroto always chooses a pair consisting only of a man and a woman by random drawing. We can do this, for example, by including all women in a special group. We will gradually include all 3 women in the special group in the Player Management tab in the Add to the Special Group field. In the Tournament Editing tab, we will then define different settings for the special group. In the list of all registered players, you may notice that your name is underlined for quick reference. Inclusion in a special group is indicated by a different font color. Now we have to set the preferences in the Tournament Editing tab so that Doroto does not choose a match where a woman stands next to a woman and at the same time avoids choosing a man-man pair. In this way, we will ensure that only mixed pairs will face each other. However, it must be taken into account that, in our case, when we have fewer women than men, women will be used in more matches. However, the number of matches played does not affect the overall result of the tournament, as the player's placement is determined by the ratio of wins to losses, not the number of matches won. Now that we have everything basic set up, we can proceed to close player registration. We can close the registration of players either in the Tournament Selection tab or at the top above the table of players using the Close Registration link. Now we have the first drawn match where Arnold plays Blake against Angelina and Tom. We also learned that Arnold will stand on the left and Blake on the right. Likewise, Angelina will be on the left and Tom will be on the right. Serving starts with the first team, the player with index R1, that is Blake. Once this match is played, the result will be selected from the selection box and saved with the Save button. If you look at the available possible results, they do not correspond to a classic tennis game. These matches are usually played in an abbreviated form in order to have as many matches as possible during the tournament and to replace as many teammates and opponents as possible. However, if you wish to adhere to the tennis standard and play matches that can end with a result of 7-6 in the tie break, then in the Tournament Editing tab, set the value 13 in the field, maximum sum of games in a match, and in the field, setting possible match results, set basic settings. However, for our purposes, I will keep the original settings so that we can play as many matches as possible. It is not only about the time measured for the tennis tournament, but also about the physical condition of the individual players. They will certainly welcome more frequent breaks. If one of the players needs a longer break, he or the tournament administrator can temporarily suspend his game. This is done by setting the Player Management tab. This setting will then be reflected in the player table, and from now on, the player marked in this way will not be used in the matches. While I will enter the played results of individual games, I will tell you the list of advantages of Doroto. An individual can enter the tournament without a teammate. Thanks to rotation, you don't have a permanent partner anyway. The tournament can be organized even with an odd number of players. Doroto allows you to define a special group of players for which special conditions can be set. If women are included in the special group, it can be set that only male plus female pairs are drawn. Alternatively, male plus male can be allowed but female plus female prohibited. And vice versa, similar combinations can be created in the relationship of parent plus child or strong plus weaker player. Shorter matches are usually played, so more will be played during the tournament, or conversely, shorter matches allow more players to participate. Doubles rotation tournament does not take place in the form of elimination, so players are still in the game for the duration of the tournament and will play the same number of matches according to the settings. The tournament can be interrupted at any time or extended in time, and it will not disturb its course in any way. During the tournament, players can temporarily or permanently interrupt their game or enter the tournament. It is not necessary for each player to play the same number of matches because only the ratio of games won to games lost determines the final ranking. Doroto perfectly provides an overview of the quality of individual players, where the quality of the teammate does not affect the rating due to the frequent change of partners. During the tournament, there is no downtime waiting for a match to take place to move the tournament forward. While entering the results, I performed 3 uncommented actions. First, I enabled registration of entry fee payments and recorded the payment made for 3 players. Furthermore, Bruce renewed his participation in the tournament. And finally, I marked 2 matches with the hide index, so the marked matches are not counted in the result. For example, due to bad weather, the match will not be played to the end, so we will hide it. Now we can look at the individual matches played in the Played Matches tab. From the table, we learned that a total of 17 matches have been played so far, and according to the index of matches played, we know that match number 16 and 17 are hidden. If anyone entered the match result incorrectly, it can be corrected in this tab. For example, we will change the result of the last played match with index 19. Here we can set the filter of the selected player. Then we will see the matches played where this selected player was deployed. If we scroll below the table of played games, statistical data will appear for the filtered player, from which it is possible to read how many times he played with which teammate and on which side and how many times he played against the selected players. In order to show more possibilities of Doroto, we will add 4 more players to the played tournament. From now on, Doroto will try to use these players in the next randomly selected matches. Since the ratio of won to lost games is decisive, even a player who joined the game later can still win the tournament. Since we already have multiple players in the tournament, it would be wise for me as the tournament organizer to grant admin rights to other players as well. This can be done in the Tournament Editing tab in the Adding Organizer Rights in Tournament field. After adding 4 more players, we have 8 men to 3 women. If we left the original setup of the special group, where a woman must be included in each pair drawn, then women would play disproportionately more matches. Although this fact may not affect the overall evaluation of the ranking in the tournament, it will be better to adjust this setting so that a man-man pair can also be created. In this way, we ensure that the newly added players, in our case, also play a sufficient number of matches before the tournament closes. Since we don't have much time left, we'll make one more change to the settings. We will reduce the total number of games in the matches to only 3. However, we will add a condition that the match must be won by at least 2 games. If this is not the case, a tiebreak is played. So the match can end 3-0, 2, 1-3, 1 or in a tiebreak 3-2. You will surely understand this calculation better if you read the rules of the doubles rotating tournament. We will now play a few matches to give the new players a chance to place. Notice how in the player table the order is constantly changing according to the ratio of games won to lost. Now is the right time to close the tournament and announce the best player of the tournament. However, in the settings, you can decide that after the best player of the tournament is announced, a final match will take place from the selected 4 highest-ranked players, and from this final match, the ideal winning tournament pair will then be announced. If we click on the Start the Final Match link in the Details About Tournament tab, not only will the best player of the tournament be announced, but we will also be given the opportunity to confirm the composition of the final pairs and possibly edit them. Now, we can clearly see from the table that the winner of the Best Player category is highlighted in color. The winner won by maintaining the best possible win-to-lose ratio during their game. Now, we have the opportunity to choose the final pairs. In order to comply with the original specification of the mixed tournament, we will always select a man and a woman in pairs. So we will choose the first best man and the first best woman for the first pair, and the second best man and the second best placed woman for the second pair. We will confirm this setting and let the final match be played. So that other players also have a chance to enjoy this final match, we can set in tournament editing, that it will be played in the classic format with a maximum number of 13 games. As soon as we enter the result of this final match, the announcement of the most ideal tournament pair will appear. That is all. The tournament is closed. You now have 24 hours to change the result of the final tournament if it was entered incorrectly, and at the same time correct the tournament settings. In our case, we will use this time window to change the display of abbreviated names in order to comply with the privacy policy. Oops! I just now realized that I only had 11 players playing on one court. I could set up maybe 3 courts. Even though one player would be missing to occupy the third court after all, this was just a preliminary test tournament. All the Hollywood actors will arrive in 2 weeks. For testing purposes, there is a checkbox in the Tournament Editing tab that can delete all the results of the played games, but keep all other settings. This is actually a very good option to test the course of the tournament in advance to make sure you have everything set up correctly. But be careful. Don't confuse it with the last red-colored checkbox, which would delete the entire tournament. Now that we've gotten to the point where we are before closing registration, let's take a look at the multi-court game setup. When we close the registration now, 2 new matches will appear for 11 players. It will be interesting to look at these matches from the perspective of another player who does not have administrator rights. Here you can see that the players have the option to enter the result only for the match they played. The tournament administrator can prohibit individual players from entering all results. It is now set that the next match is drawn only when all other matches have been played. However, it can be set that the next match will be drawn as soon as 5 or more players are waiting for the game. Of course, the fewer players you allow to draw a new game, the less variability you will achieve in the drawn matches. That's it. You already know everything important. I think now you can manage Doroto with ease. I wish you many pleasant experiences playing Doubles Rotating Tournament.